I'm Kelly Lewis,
And I'm Tiffany Jones.
and we're your revenue insiders. Today, we're here to interview the wonderful Tiffany Jones and let you know who we are and why we're here. Tiffany, tell us a little bit about why we started this podcast and what inspires you about it.
Thanks, Kelly. We started this podcast thinking back. We were chatting about all of the things that we've gone through as women professionals growing in our careers and the conversations we have in the evenings between meetings, and really felt that it was important to start to share those discussions with a broader audience. I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to do with this podcast and the audience we're going to be able to reach.
Okay, we're going to start easy. um, we want to know where you are working today. What is your role? Obviously, you're going to be bringing those experiences to this conversation. So tell us what you do.
Yeah, I am the vice president of go to market strategy and operations at HackerOne. We're a small cybersecurity company, really bringing hackers and companies together to make the internet a safer place. And it's a really fun place to work at. I love that we have a mission greater than just the B2B world, but I get to use my B2B experience. My role specifically spans supporting everything across the go to market, from pricing and packaging, SDRs, and some elements of marketing through sales and into the CS world. From strategy perspective and planning and the decisions that we're making on a day to day basis, the thought leadership necessary to have those conversations, to operational processes and systems, and the enablement team that helps kind of bring it all together for the field. It's really fun to be in a role where I get to see that from end to end, the go to market from end to end, and the process from thought leadership to execution enablement from end to end.
So, as a busy professional and a mom of two, it seems like you might just be a little bit busy.
Yeah. Those two kids also keep me busy. I'm surprised they're not in here running around right now. I think in most of my meetings, their heads pop up from time to time. But it's all about building a good team around you, both personally and professionally. Having great leaders in your organization ensures that you can hand things off to people and they can take them. They can take that baton and run with it, and you don't need to oversee everything. And it's the same personally, right? You and I know it better than anyone. It takes a village to raise kids, especially when you're a working professional, regardless of what your role is. You're busy. And that network of people that you can call and say, I can't make it to school pickup today because I've got to take this meeting and someone else can grab them, is so critical for success.
I love it. Okay. And what is the favorite part of your role?
Oh, my favorite part of my role, I love the size company we're at. We're talking a lot internally about the growing pains we're going through at the revenue stage that we're at. And as painful as they are, I love that we're going through them because it's so fun to get to shape a company in the direction you're going at this phase, pre-IPO, really high growth. That it's so much fun. It's what I love to do and why I love companies at this smaller size. It's definitely the reason that I wake up and get excited to turn my computer on every day.
You and I have chatted a lot, and I know there's been a lot of mentors and inspirational figures in your life. Could you share a story about how that's impacted you in your career?
I've had a ton of different mentors across my career. There's one moment that really sticks out to me that I've held on to as I think about all of the different decisions I've made in my growth. I was really early on in my career in Seattle. I was a reporting analyst, pretty fresh out of college, and I was talking to a VP in operations at the company I was at the time. And a few people had been leaving the business. And when we were chatting about kind of why that happens and why people move from place to place. He shared with me that one of the ways that he thinks about the career growth and the decisions you make next is thinking about the size of company that you want to work for. Like, what's the, not just what you want to do, but what's the company that you want to work for? And a lot of people end up working for really big companies when in fact they're well suited for startups or vice versa. And you build a lot of unnecessary frustration with your career when you're working at the wrong size company. And I've really held on to that principle in all the career decisions I've made since then, and it's been so helpful for me to frame how I think about my career growth or what I want to do next.
I love that because I've been talking to a lot of people recently, and I actually think there's different times in your career where certain size companies make sense. based on what you're trying to get out of that experience, as well as where you are in your career and what's going on in your personal life, frankly. Um, Tell us a little bit about how you got started in go to market strategy.
Yeah, I graduated from school with a degree in finance, and I thought that I would go into like a very classic finance role. When I moved to Seattle, I ended up landing in a job in reporting in the sales operations kind of realm in this smaller company. And I really found that I loved the applied math that came with like reporting on a business. I loved understanding the nuance behind what that was driving, and I loved connecting with the business and connecting the dots a little bit further. I kind of just grew my career from there. I landed in that sales ops role a little bit accidentally, but that love of like what it was doing from a reporting standpoint drove the need to develop processes, to understand systems, and to really go from there.
Okay. So we all have struggles with that within our careers. You and I have chatted about these multiple times. What's the biggest struggle you've had as an up and coming go to market leader?
There are a few, I have to be honest, like they happen throughout your career. You know them for me better than most people do. I think there have been a few really important ones. Thinking about it though, the one that was probably the hardest for me was as I was at DocuSign, we were going through kind of like the really big growth phase around the IPO timing. It was really hard to figure out how my career goals fit into that. So going back to what I said about that advice, I was really struggling with that size company. Like it was bigger, there was more politics than I wanted. And I often found myself saying to coworkers and friends, like, that's it, I'm done. Like, I'm quitting tomorrow. Like, this is it. Like, I can't handle this anymore. And going back to that advice, what I did was kind of flipped that initial advice on its head. And instead of saying, like, I'm best suited for a small company, I ended up framing it as, what can I learn out of this next phase that's out of my comfort zone? And to your point around like you have different size companies that are good for different points in your career, it ended up being like a huge growth moment for me to realize like I need to learn how to be good at this size company. I need to know how to grow into this. And I need to look at this as a challenge that I'm adding like a feather to my cap or to my resume for my career. And it was a huge growth moment for me from a career perspective and taking that lens when I was thinking about the challenges I was having.
I love that. Okay. I don't believe in regrets, but it's always fun to look back and think about what you would do differently. So, if you had that magic wand and you could go back in time, is there anything you would do differently in your career?
Oh, that's so hard. I don't believe in regrets either. I feel like all of these like little things lead you to exactly where you're at. And so it's hard to say like a certain like decision I made I regret necessarily. I think I regret being too consumed by decisions that were made and thinking that I had put a nail in a coffin of sorts of different things. I remember, especially early in my career, like a ton of anxiety over like I realized I had an error in a report that I had done. And the anxiety that I let build up to not like just deal with the problem and instead like, internalized all of that and like the stress of that. I mean, multiple examples of that throughout my career, especially like when I back in an individual contributor role. I just wish that I had the foresight I have now to realize like everyone around you, including the executives you're working with and producing things for, like they're all human. They all make mistakes and they understand mistakes. And like there's no value in the anxiety and the worry that you put yourself through. I would have had a healthier relationship with some of the earlier places I was at if I could have recognized those things.
Absolutely. Um, I like to say that everyone has a superpower. And when you think about your career, you are one of the individuals who kind of climbed that career ladder very quickly and got into an executive role in your early mid 30s, which congratulations for that. I would love to understand when you reflect back on what got you there, what do you think really you did differently? Or what do you think stands out that made you so successful?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm grateful that I was able to kind of navigate my career, even with some of those regrets, at a faster pace. And I think one of the big things that I've has always been a principle for me, even very early on in my career, is that I don't treat people hierarchically. Like I don't look at people that are in certain positions and assume that I need to act a certain way. I've always treated everyone around me as peers. And if I'm part of a meeting or in a room, then it's because my voice matters and I'm going to use my voice if I have an opinion. Like I don't shy away from that. And I've held on to that since really early on in my career. And I think that ultimately really helped me because what that translated to is people who were one or two levels up seeing me as their peer in a thought leadership role and able to have those conversations. And it's not the amount of work you do or how good you are at your individual job that really grows you in your career ladder through leadership. It's your ability to add thought leadership, to add value, to drive the business forward. And so positioning myself as someone that had that, I think really helped that growth kind of move along a little quicker than maybe most see.
Definitely. Okay, we've got listeners here. A lot of them are in go to market today, looking for that next career move, thinking how they make an impact. What's one piece of advice you would give to our listeners?
I would say build a network. Reach out to people that are in totally different roles than you in different parts of life at different size companies and build a network and rely on your network to help understand the problems that you're at now. You don't need to figure everything out on your own. You do it by having a group of people around you, whether you know them personally or you know them because you listen to them on a podcast, maybe like this, that you have that insight from others to help you formulate and understand what you should be doing next or how you should be interpreting something that's going on around you. I think that's not internalizing everything or thinking everything is only happening to you or the biggest problem or issue is something you have to solve on your own. That networking effect I think is so important and probably the biggest thing that I think people should do more of in their career.
Okay, one last question for you. We all have unique experiences. What about your experience and your professional experience makes you a little bit unique?
Oh man, that's a tough question. What makes me unique? I think the thing that I would say, especially if I put on my hat of like thinking what others would say, is the empathy that I bring to the job. I don't have a work version of myself and a personal version of myself. I'm very big on bringing your full self to everything that you do. I think that layer of transparency into both sides, your kids to see you working and your work to see that you have family obligations and you take calls from the car or kids pop in, just helps keep you more balanced because everyone realizes what you are. But then I take that and I bring that empathy to situations at work, whether it's dealing with, how deal structures or sales commissions need to be paid out on a specific deal, like when you're in the nitty gritty of it, or thinking about the changes that we need to make to kind of drive that next phase of growth when we're thinking about strategy and planning. Like, what are the people results of those things? And when people react poorly, where's their head really at? And navigating through that to really negotiate at the end of the day how we get to the result we need in any of those situations. So I do think that empathy piece is kind of my superpower.
Love it. Okay. Well, thank you, Tiffany. This has been fun. I'm excited for this podcast. Kick this off. And I know everyone, including myself, have a lot to learn from you.
Great. I'm so excited. Thanks, Kelly, for interviewing me today. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to bring the revenue insiders to everyone.